Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a new edition of Muhlenberg County Public Library's Throwback Thursday. Next Monday, October 12th, is Columbus Day, or what many people now celebrate as Indigenous Peoples Day, or some variant thereof. In this area, Indigenous people refers mainly to those we now know as Native Americans. We don't have any artifacts from our collection to show you today, due in part to the fact that a lot of Native American artifacts are protected. Generally, it is acceptable to collect artifacts, such as arrowheads, that are found on private land, although you are not permitted to disturb any artifacts that you may find on federal or Native American land. Cultural items, including human remains, funerary objects, and items that were considered sacred, are more strictly regulated due to the sensitive nature of such objects and the possibility of these items having been obtained from burial sites. However, even though we are not showing you part of our collection today, we do have information to share. Kentucky, like most of the rest of the nation, was home to groups of indigenous people at different points throughout its history, dating back to at least 9500 BCE, or before Common Era, the preferred designation of the time period for modern historians. It is possible that groups of indigenous people were living in Kentucky even before that time, although archaeological research has been unable to prove that thus far. Later, beginning around 1000 CE, or Common Era, the people of what would eventually become Kentucky are separated into two broad groups, roughly separated by the Falls of the Ohio near Louisville: Fort Ancient in eastern Kentucky, and the Mississippian culture in western Kentucky, where we're at. Both groups were farming-based civilizations, although they also participated in some hunting and gathering for sustenance and survival. Mississippian peoples used bows and arrows for hunting, and made baskets and pottery as storage containers. They wore clothing made of both animal leather and cloth, and they used shell and bone for ornamentation. And they used tools made of stone to maintain their farm fields. They were also mound builders. Some groups used mounds for burial locations, but they built larger mounds for ceremonial purposes and as gathering locations. Some of these mounds still exist across our region, and you can visit some of the larger groups of mounds at Angel Mounds near Evansville, Mound Bottom State Archaeological Area near Nashville, Tennessee, and Cahokia Mounds State Historic Site in Illinois, just across the Mississippi River from St. Louis. Other sites also exist throughout the region. As time went by, the Mississippian cultures became known as smaller, more specific groups, including the tribes many of us have heard of in association with this region, including Shawnee, Chickasaw, Cherokee, and possibly others. When Europeans began to arrive in Kentucky, they brought with them diseases that were completely foreign and devastating to the native peoples already here. Battles between the cultures over land and a lack of cultural understanding also contributed to the decimation of Native American tribes. Later, of course, the Native Americans were forced to leave their homes here and relocate to what was then called Indian Territory, west of here. The Trail of Tears, which passed through southwestern Kentucky, including Hopkinsville, was part of this relocation. Muhlenberg County is also home to what are known to archaeologists as shell middens. Often found along rivers, shell middens are, simply put, accumulations of domestic waste from previous civilizations. They typically consist mostly of mollusk shells, in this area mainly from mussels, hence the name. However, these sites also contain other domestic waste, including remains of other food products, artifacts, and more. They provide valuable information to archaeologists trying to learn more about the people who used to live in this area. Muhlenberg County has one such Green River shell midden that has been included in the National Register of Historic Places for its archaeological significance. This site, known as the Baker Site, is located on the Green River between Paradise and Rochester. Several artifacts, including tools, projectile points, and more, were recovered from the site, which was determined to also include 4 human graves and 3 dog graves, as well as the shell midden itself. The Baker site was added to the National Register in 1986, along with several other sites in Butler, Henderson, McLean, and Ohio counties. The Baker site was included in the Green River Shell Middens Archaeological District a National Historic Landmark, in 1994. A lot of people in Kentucky believe, for various reasons, they have Native American heritage, and some do. If you are interested in finding out more about your heritage, including whether you may have some Native American ancestors, there are DNA tests available that will help you learn more. We can't recommend a certain testing company, but two of the biggest companies, Ancestry and 23andMe, both include Native or Indigenous American heritage in the groups that they check for. Native American historical records can be difficult to find or access, but some do exist. But you may be asked to provide documentation of Native American heritage in order to access some of those records. So that is where a DNA test may come in handy. At Thistle Cottage, we can also help with some genealogy guidance, especially once our history and genealogy annex materials are fully moved in and available at full capacity. While we cannot offer to complete a full genealogical research project for you, we have books and software to help you find the documentation you need, as well as knowledgeable staff to guide and assist you in your research. Currently, Thistle Cottage is still closed due to restrictions and impacts related to the COVID-19 pandemic and our ongoing renovation and moving project. But once we reopen, annex materials will be located on the lower level of the building with museum materials on the main level. We cannot wait to welcome the community back into the building and get back to our normal activities of helping people learn more about the history of the community and their own families. That's all we have for today, but thank you for watching this week's Throwback Thursday video. Have a great week.